Hey, what is going on guys, RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be updating the S tier champions for every single role for patch 9.15. Alright, so if we start off with top lane here, not a ton changed in this patch. Last patch was a big shakeup. We saw Kled, Renekton, and Cassio all make the jump up into S tier, but for this patch here, the only champions that got changed for top lane were Malphite, along with Poppy got a small change, but both the changes to those champions were pretty small in this patch, not enough to jump them up into S tier, so it is going to be staying the exact same as to where it was in last patch. All very strong picks here. There's a lot to choose from right now in the top lane. Really good bruiser champions you can play, really good hard carry champions in the top lane. So if you are constructing your champion pool for the top lane for this patch, you do have a lot of different options. I would say that Mord or Cassio are definitely very good to have. They are AP top laners, so if your team's lacking AP, you can go with either one of them. Mordekaiser is banned though quite a bit still, so you're not going to get him every single game, but for Cassiopeia, definitely still super underrated. She's got a great laning phase, scales extremely well into the mid to late game, so there's not really a bad phase to Cassiopeia's game, does very well into a lot of melee top lane picks, so definitely a pick I would recommend trying out. For the other 5 top laners, they're all bruiser top laners. Top lane is still pretty much dominated right now by bruiser tops, which isn't a bad thing. You do have a lot of good carry options right now in the top lane. It's not like it's just a tank meta or anything, so I do think that top lane right now, even though it is still one of the weaker roles, there are a lot of different options that you can carry with for sure. Renekton right now, very good early game top laner. He doesn't even fall off as hard as he used to because of Spear of Sojin. Spear of Sojin does make it so he is a lot more effective in mid to late game team fights. Same with Jax there, same with Riven. Pretty good early game, scales very well into the mid to late game. I say that Kled is probably the best out of all these champions with the buffs he did receive, or with the buff he got to his Q last patch. He is a great top lane pick now. And then as for the Darius, very good early to mid game top laner as well. So definitely a lot of options here in the top lane for this patch, and you can't really go wrong with picking up any of these S tier champions. So taking a look at jungle now, Kha'Zix is going to be moving up into S tier. Other than that, not a huge shakeup either. The same champions are pretty good again in this patch here, but for Kha'Zix, he did get that buff to his Q, 10 base damage on his Q at all ranks. Pretty good buff there, does help out his dueling potential quite a bit in the early to mid game, helps his snowball potential a little bit there. So I do think Kha'Zix is now one of your better AD assassins, probably your best AD assassin that you can play in the jungle now for 9.15. And then staying on top for yet another patch as the strongest jungler is Hecarim. This champion's just been super good for a pretty long time now. He's been my go-to ban the past couple of patches here just because he's super annoying to deal with. His gank pressure in the early game is super good. His dueling potential, if you run the Ignite, is extremely good. He's just one of the best junglers. Would definitely recommend picking him up if you haven't already. As for Elise, I would say she now stands alone as the strongest AP jungler, with Evelynn getting hit with the nerf in this patch. She's going to be dropping down a little bit here, so I'd say Elise right now, if your team is lacking any AP, if you want to play an AP jungler, then definitely go with the Elise. And then for Jarvan, Nunu, and Vi, you really can't go wrong with any of those junglers right now. All very consistent jungle picks. Jarvan, if your team's lacking engage, or Jarvan or Vi, if your team's lacking any hard engage, then both are great picks. Nunu, if your team's lacking a tank or you want some more utility, then he's also a very solid pick. So taking a look at the mid lane now, didn't really change at all in this patch. There were actually quite a few mid laners that did get buffed or nerfed. LeBlanc, Xerath, Syndra all got buffed in this patch. Rumble ended up getting a nerf, but the changes were just, they weren't enough to do anything to move those champions anywhere in the tier list. So it is going to be staying exactly the same as to where it was last patch. So you still have Ahri and Malzahar, very good picks. You can't go wrong with those two champions right now. You have a wide range of assassins that are great in 9.15. So you got your Zed and your Talon, very good AD assassins that you can pick up, your Katarina and your Fizz, great AP assassins. So a lot of diversity right now in the mid lane. And then as for the Rumble pick there, he did get that nerf to his W in this patch, but I just don't think it's enough to drop him out of S tier just yet. I still think he's a great mid lane pick, still has very strong bully potential in the early game. He is going to get hurt by this change in certain matchups, so in some ranged matchups to where he can get poked out a little bit, this change is going to hurt him, but his W is on such a short cooldown that as long as you're just waiting for your W to come back up, waiting for that to trade, then you're still going to win a lot of trades in the early game with Rumble, he's still going to be a great pick, still going to be able to apply a ton of pressure and snowball out of control. So I just don't see the change being enough to drop this champion out of S tier. So moving down to the bot lane now, taking a look first at AD carry, Vayne is going to be moving back up into S tier. Vayne in previous patches was a borderline S tier AD carry pick, so with the buff she did get in this patch to her E, condemn damage being increased, she is now making the jump up into S tier. So with that buff, it does increase her dueling potential in the early game, increases her all-in potential, so a nice little buff there to Vayne. Now for Draven was also like borderline S tier previous patches. I'm bumping him back up into S tier for this patch though, because we are going to be seeing more Vayne, we are going to be seeing a lot of Kai'Sa in this patch, just some weaker early game AD carries Draven can really feast on. We're also seeing more Jhin right now, so some good matchups for Draven down in the bot lane. Would definitely recommend picking him up if you can play him well. And then like the mid lane, bot lane is pretty diverse right now. A lot of different AD carries you can pick up and have good success with. So if you're looking for more of a stronger scaling AD carry, then Kai'Sa is a great pick. If you want a good AD carry who does a good job at just playing against the heavy dive comps that are being played right now, the assassin picks, then Xayah can be a pretty strong pick. Sivir can also be a pretty good pick into that. If you are looking for just a kill lane, a really aggressive lane to where you can chain CC, then Jhin can be a great pick paired up with things like the Thresh, the Leona. You can just CC lock the opponent in the laning phase and just get a good snowball going in those matchups. And then as for Jinx, I'd say that Jinx is probably just the most consistent AD carry right now. You can throw her into almost any team comp. She's going to do good in a lot of different matchups, has good synergies down in the bot lane with a lot of the meta supports right now, so you can't really go wrong with picking Jinx in 9.15. And then to round it out here down in the support role, two new additions being Bard and Soraka. So Bard was honestly an S tier champion last patch in 9.14, a bit of a lapse of judgment on my part to not place him in S tier, but he's here in S tier 9.15 where he belongs. So Bard got some really nice buffs in 9.14. He got a buff to his base health. Base health got increased quite a bit in the early game, makes it much more difficult to burst out Bard and kill him. Magical Journey also got buffed. The bonus movement speed got increased on that ability, and it's kind of like two different buffs in one, because due to the fact that Bard's E got buffed, it now means you can max your W out second, and it now means that your healing is also better in the early to mid game. So it's basically two buffs in one there, with his E getting buffed, which just makes him a much stronger pick here. Bard does have some pretty good kill pressure in the laning phase. If you do run that electrocute, it's very easy to proc with Bard. He only needs an auto with a meep up and a Q to proc the electrocute, so I guess his passive or his meep does count as a stack towards electrocute, so it just makes it very easy to proc for Bard. He's also an insanely good roaming support, which makes him a great pick for solo queue. You can just have a lot of influence around the map in the early game by getting a good early roam off. Once you get your Mobies and you're collecting your chimes as you're roaming, you just have a ton of movement speed and you can be in so many different places at once with Bard. And then for Soraka making the jump to S tier as well, she did get that buff to her Q in 9.15, base damage being up by 15 at all ranks. This is especially going to help her out in the early game, especially in melee matchups too, to where she's going to constantly be able to use that Q and poke out the enemy support or the enemy AD carry. If you're able to constantly hit your Q in lane with Soraka, then that buff is definitely going to add up and you are going to feel it for this patch. So I would say that along with Janna right now, Soraka is the best heal shield support for this patch. And then for the rest of the support picks, there are some pretty good options. You do have Janna if you want to play a more passive support. If you want to play more of a protect the AD carry support, Janna is definitely the best at that for this patch. If you do want to play a more aggressive support though, if you want to be able to make plays and snowball the early game by yourself, then either the Pyke, Thresh, the Nautilus, or the Blitzcrank are all great picks. I would say that Pyke is a little bit above the rest of them right now. Pyke did get buffed in last patch. He also just does have a lot more solo carry potential in my opinion, due to the fact that he is going to be building damage. You are going to be building that lethality on Pyke, so if you can get a couple kills in the early game with him, then you can really start doing some work with your ultimate resets in team fights. So that is gonna round out the video, guys. Those are the S tier champions for every single role for patch 9.15. So not a super big patch, there weren't any huge meta shifting changes, but nonetheless, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully you do find it helpful knowing who you should prioritize here in 9.15. So that being said, if you guys did enjoy the video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.